Praise the Lord. Psalm 78. My people hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth with a parable. I will utter hidden things, things from of old, things we have heard and known, things our ancestors have told us. We will not hide them from their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power and the wonders He have done. He decreed statutes for Jacob and established the law in Israel, in which He commanded to our ancestors to teach their children, so that the next generation would know them, even the children yet to be born, and they in turn would tell their children. They would trust in their God. They would not forget His deeds, but would keep His commands. They would not be like their ancestors, a stubborn and a rebellious generation, whose hearts were not loyal to Him, whose spirits were not faithful to Him. The men of Ephraim, armed with bows, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant and refused to live by His law. They forget what He had done, the wonders He had shown them. He did miracles in the sight of their ancestors, in the land of Egypt, in the region of Zor. He divided the sea and led them through. He made the water stand up like wall. He guided the cloud by a day, with light from the fire all night. He split the rock in the wilderness and gave them water as abundant as the seas. He brought streams out of a rocky crag and made water flow down like rivers. By rebelling against the Most High, they willfully put God to test. By demanding for the food they craved, they spoke against God. They said, "Can God really spread a table in the wilderness?" True, He struck the rock and water gushed out. Streams flowed abundantly. And everyone, He also asked, "Can He give us bread? Can He supply meat for His people?" When God heard this, He was furious. His fire broke out against Jacob. His wrath rose against Israel, because people did not trust Him or believed in His deliverance. Yet He gave a command to the skies above and opened down the doors of the heavens. He rained down manna for the people to eat. He gave them the grain of heaven. Human beings ate the bread of angels. He sent all the food they could eat. He let loose the east wind from the heavens, and by His power made the south wind blow. And He set up among the humans, among their tents. He rained down meat on dust. He rained down meat on people like dust, like birds on the sandshore. They ate till they were gorged, while the food was still in their mouths. He had given them what they had prayed for, while the food was still in their mouths. God's anger rose against them. He put to death the sturdiest among them, cutting down the young men of Israel. In spite of all this, they kept on sinning. In spite of His wonders, they did not believe. So He ended their days in futility, their years in terror. Whenever God slew them, they would seek Him. They would eagerly turn to Him again, because God was their rock, that God Most High was their Redeemer. But they would flatter Him with their mouths, lying to Him with their tongues. They were not loyal to Him. They were not faithful to His covenant. Yet He was merciful and forgave our iniquities and did not destroy them. Time after time He restrained them and did not stir up His full wrath. Yet because He knows they are but flesh, a passing breeze that does not return, how often they rebelled against Him in the wilderness and grieved Him in the wasteland. Again and again they put God to test. They vexed the Holy One of Israel. They did not remember His power, the day He redeemed them from their oppressor, the day He displayed His signs in Egypt, His wonders in the region of Zor. He turned the water into blood. They could not drink up from their streams. He gave their produce to grasshopper and their crops to the locust. He sent down hail so that the sycamore figs would sleet. The Lord sent down hail because of all the bad things they had done. He unleashed his hot anger, his wrath, indignation, and hostility, a band of destroying angels. He prepared a path for his anger, because he prepared a path for his anger, which he commanded for all the things they had done. He struck the firstborns of the Egypt, the first fruits of manhood in the tents of Ham. He led his people like a flock, like a sheep through the wilderness. He drove out the nations before them and allotted their lands to them as an inheritance. The tribes of Israel, they set their homes. He brought them to his holy land, the hill place his right hand had taken. He guided them safely, so they were unafraid. Uh, He guided them safely, so they were unafraid. Like as an unreliable as a faulty bow, they were like their ancestors, like they were not loyal and faithless. They aroused him with their high places. He was angry because they did not obey him. God was completely angered with Israel. He rejected Israel completely. He abandoned the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had set up among humans. He sent his ark of might into captivity. He gave his enemy he gave his hand to the splendor of his enemies. Fire consumed the young men, cutting down the young woman. The young woman had no wedding songs. Their priests were put to sword, and their widows could not weep. The Lord woke up from a sleep like an warrior wakes from the stupor of wine. He beat back his enemies. He put them to everlasting shame because he rejected the tent of Joseph, and also he rejected the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he dwelt. He built up his sanctuary in the heights. He built up his earth as he dwelt forever. He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens, from tending the sheep to be the shepherd of his people Israel, of his people Israel and his inheritance. And David shepherded them with the integrity of heart. With his skillful hands he led them. Amen.